Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Student Spotlight series, where we showcase some of the work our past students have done. My name is Michael, and today it is my pleasure to be speaking to Arav Mahajan. So, Arav, can you tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what year of school you're in, and what course you took with CCIR?
Sure, yeah. My name is Arav Mahajan. I am a senior at Pinkerton Academy in New Hampshire, and I took the one-on-one mentorship program with CCIR.
So, can you say a little bit about how you became interested in the mentorship program and maybe who your mentor was and what you worked on?
Sure, yeah. So, throughout my high school career, I eventually became very interested in biology, and during my junior year summer, I decided to pursue research so that I could extend this passion and see how I could delve deeper into the subject. So that's what led me to CCIR. And my instructor was Dr. Girl I, who is a Harvard Medical School instructor, and he was great to work with in this program.
So, can you say a bit more about what your research was? Like, what was your project? How did you come up with it, and how did you sort of develop or get started on the work with your mentor?
Yeah, of course. So my mentor focused on stem cell therapy. We started off the course talking about what stem cell therapy means, what he's been working on, and I decided to find my passions and my specific things I wanted to pursue in biology, see how I could tie that towards stem cell therapy. So eventually, my research topic ends up being focusing on mitochondrial dysfunction and the emerging technologies that can be used to treat this disease. These certain therapeutics were emerging gene editing technologies, as well as stem cell therapy through mitochondrial dysfunction, mitochondrial transfer through mesenchymal stem cells.
So, just for the layman, could you say a little bit about what mitochondrial dysfunction is, and I guess what the kind of clinical significance maybe of the research you're doing might be in the future?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So mitochondria, of course, is responsible for producing energy in our cells, right? So when their DNA is damaged, that could lead to severe neuromuscular and metabolic disorders. And currently, there are very limited treatment options for such biological issues. There are supplements and short-term treatments, but there's no significant cures. So mitochondrial transfer through stem cell therapy is a way to transfer the mitochondria to unhealthy mitochondrial cells to fix this issue. And then the gene editing technologies are able to fix the specific gene mutations in the mitochondrial DNA that cause this mitochondrial dysfunction.
So, what was your, I guess, what was your methodology? What kind of paper did you end up writing? Was this something more like a literature review, or was there any experimental work?
Yeah, so overall, my paper was a literature review where I looked over multiple types of preclinical trials, clinical trials, and animal studies to see how well these different treatments are working in the real world. And my analysis of these things was comparing them and seeing if they could be implemented in actual healthcare in our society.
So, what were the key takeaways or insights that you came upon at the end of your research process?
Yeah, so my findings were that through understanding the findings of these clinical trials and these animal studies, for example, that there is a lot of innovation and potential for this scientific discoveries to go into the real world. However, there is definitely a translational gap occurring where these treatments have not yet reached actual healthcare. So eventually, my thesis was saying that because there is significant scientific innovation and positive results in mesenchymal stem cell therapy for mitochondrial transfer in, for example, rats and mice, and then for specifics of gene therapy, gene editing therapies for specific new technologies such as DDBCs and TALIDs, there is definitely potential for this technologies to come to the real world and be implemented so that mitochondrial dysfunction can be fully treated, because this is definitely a type of disorder that affects multiple different diseases. And if it's fully implemented in our healthcare, we will be able to help a lot of people.
So maybe this might be outside of the scope of your paper, but I'm curious, when you were doing your research, did you get a sense of what maybe the biggest barriers to, I guess, making these new technologies or treatments clinically available are?
Yeah, so it was definitely evident that lots of my papers that I was looking at were definitely preclinical. And obviously, the barrier of getting trials from preclinical to clinical states is what causes this route of delayed translation of biological innovation, right? So I think the main barrier was making sure that these clinical trials with real people are actually occurring, and therefore it can reach the real world sooner, because obviously delays in public policy and such are what's causing these treatments to take so long to reach the public world.
So again, maybe we're getting even further outside of the scope of your paper, but you mentioned public policy. Do you feel like it's a public policy issue primarily, or do you think that the I guess the primary delay is somewhere else?
Yeah, I would say it can definitely be identified as a public policy issue, but it could also be that there isn't enough meta-analysis of how these different therapeutics can be used together to fully treat mitochondrial dysfunction. And that was only the purpose of my paper, to tie these things together and show how there are therapeutics that can work together to solve this disorder. And but yes, I would say public policy is probably why it's stagnant at the moment. But obviously, given there are preclinical trials and animal studies going on, I would hope in the next few years that things will progress further.
Yeah, I really liked what you were saying about, I guess, the role that your paper or the research that you're doing might play in that process. That I guess maybe part of making the case to policymakers or to, like the FDA or other similar institutions
Mhm.
involves coming out with meta-analyses like the one that you've done. I
Yeah.
guess that's not really a question, but maybe could you say a little bit more maybe then about what your thoughts on the role that your research or research like yours plays in, I guess, moving along these types of medical developments.
Yeah, no, that's important because even I could say outside of this specific issue, but just research in general definitely plays a huge role in deciding how healthcare gets moved towards the public realm. And I'd say that's important because not a lot of research is specifically towards scientific discovery, and maybe less on how it can be taken past that and translated and then implemented into the real world. So meta-analyses like my paper are definitely important to show how previously done research and primary research can be articulated together to show a real world impact that can eventually be moved to force public policy to allow these specific therapies and these treatments to go forth and help the real world.
So, having completed this project, well, actually, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Have you completed writing your paper?
Yes, I have.
And are you looking at publishing it anywhere or taking it to any conferences?
Yes, this is the plan. I have gotten through a little bit of peer review, and hopefully, after some edits that I've submitted, I will get my paper published.
That's great. That's really exciting. So then, now that you've completed this project, do you feel more empowered or prepared to continue doing research in the future? Is that something that you want to do? I mean, I know you came into the program with an interest already in doing biological research. Has this experience intensified that interest or confirmed it? Yeah, I mean, what's your sort of outlook now on doing this type of work?
Sure, sure. So yeah, definitely, as you said, I was interested prior to this in doing biological research, and I would 100% agree that this process and this experience definitely intensified my interest in it. And that's very gratifying for me because I was doing this for the holistic reason of seeing if I actually had interest in research, right? Because I knew I liked the subject of biology. I knew I liked delving deep into the specifics and the nitty gritty, but I wanted to see actually wanted to see if I could take it to the next level and go deep into a certain idea and see if I could create change through what I could write and what I could analyze. And I definitely do have this interest after completing this paper for doing this research. And hopefully, as I go into college and past that as well, I will do my own primary research on such things and continue this biological research process.
So, what part of the process, I guess the process of getting experience doing actual sort of college level research or, well, yeah, what part of that process did you find most surprising or most difficult? Because you already had the interest coming in, but of course, it's different to actually get experience doing it.
Yeah, so I think what people might overlook in literature reviews is the amount of time it takes to read so many papers. I think by the end of finishing writing my paper, I'd read probably over 50 research papers, and each of those, as much as I probably skimmed a few of them, each of those took over an hour, you know? So it definitely takes a while to read each paper and go through it because I'm not just trying to understand it, I'm trying to analyze it and see how it can play into the role of what I'm trying to talk about in my meta-analysis in my paper, right? So probably the biggest challenge in this process was spending the time and commitment to reading all these papers, understanding them. You know, they're at a very deep level, very high vocab and such. So figuring out the papers and fully analyzing them, putting them together and articulating what I want to say out of that was definitely the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's something I hear a lot. And I mean, I agree. I think it can be exhausting, and it's interesting too because there's a whole sort of almost economy that's been built around publishing papers and citing papers, so that, of course, a lot of the time, when in the process of reading all of these papers, you learn important and interesting things. But also a lot of the time, you find
Yeah.
that you just have to read things just to say that you read them and cite them just to say that you cited
Mhm.
them. So it
Yeah.
can be gratifying, but it can also be exhausting.
Mhm.
So if is there anything that you wish you had known earlier, or if you were to talk, give advice to someone who is going to start a similar program to the one that you've done, what advice would you give them?
No, that's a great question. I would say that if I had to give advice to somebody, it would be to deeply look into exactly what specific fields interest you a lot because you're going to be spending a lot of time looking at one certain idea or one group of ideas, whether it's in STEM or, humanities or whatever you want to do with your research. You should definitely be very inclined in what specifically you're going to do. And I'm happy that I did pursue that prior to um, doing this research program, and especially while I was working with my mentor, and I ended up solidifying an idea that I did enjoy. But I can see that there's definitely a huge time commitment and effort commitment to a certain idea. So it's important for people to truly understand what they're inclined to write about and why they're inclined to write about it.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I mean, I think that something that can really, I mean, cause huge problems for people, like graduate students, for example, is not taking too long to decide on a project and really commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's almost more important just to decide early on what you're going to
Mm-hmm.
do, commit to doing it, than to
Yeah.
get the perfect topic or, find the thing
Mm-hmm.
that you're absolutely the most interested in. So yeah, I agree. It's really important to know in advance what you're going to do and commit to doing it. Do you have
Yeah.
any other thoughts that you'd like to share about your experience or on working with your mentor?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to work with a mentor. It definitely helped solidify my passion for biology and kind of narrowed into what exactly can be done in the realm of biological research. And as a high schooler, I think that's very important for kids who are passionate about certain subjects to try and delve deeper into it and see how much they can understand about a certain topic, because I think it's very important to explore at this stage in your education, and being able to understand the intricacies of your subject and what it really means to go deeper with it past the school level or past, the AP, IB level of what you learn is important so that you can know if this is an avenue you do want to take in future.
Yeah, I mean, I think research is such an important part of so many different careers, and yet it's something that it's hard to get actual experience doing in high school. So I think it's really great to be able to get that experience. And I'm glad that from the
Mm.
sounds of it, it was such a positive experience for you. That's all the questions I have. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed hearing about your work, and good luck going forward.
Thank you so much for having me.